Mother's Day, my wife presented me some scripture lesson, and afterwards I heard that she was not entirely pleased with the passage I gave her, so I promised her that I would allow her to get up and do another one very soon. And it just so happens that this week, as I deal with ordination exams, it turned out to be a very good week for both of us to do it. So I'd like to welcome Christine to the pulpit at this time.
Well, it's an honor to be able to bring God's word to you here today. And I'm just going to pray before we start. And I've already prayed a lot, which is really Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for your word and your graciousness in giving us your word, and especially your word made flesh in Christ. And I pray that as we open up your word today and read it and study it, try to learn from it, that we would learn more of you, that we would be brought deeper into the reality that is true, that is you. In your name we pray. Amen. So, I like to watch HGTV. Does anyone else like to watch HGTV? Okay, I'm not alone. I know Jessica Lange is kind of obsessed with the show Fixer Upper, so it's not totally just me. I actually didn't watch this channel at all until I had children. But when you're home alone with small children, sometimes you just need an adult voice. Like, you really need an adult voice. And you want to, if you're going to turn on something, you want to make sure there's going to be no swearing and no sketchiness, right? And they just show homes. It's just homes, right? So it's pretty safe. I can hear an adult voice talking about adult things and just have it on the background while I'm doing chores and the kids are playing. And Nick doesn't usually mind this very much. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see the homes around the country, except for one show. And if I'm not paying attention and it comes on, I will hear, "What are you watching?" You guys ever had your spouse say that? Like, "What are you watching?" Well, this show is called My Lottery Dream Home. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't really like it either. The main thing is that the host is a little off-putting, right? He takes people who won the lottery to find their houses. People who won the lottery are generally okay people. The host is just like fabulous. Everything's fabulous. And you're so rich. And you deserve it because you're so rich. And his whole demeanor is just a little, right? But this led us to have that conversation. I'm sure you probably had before. What would you do if you won the lottery? Have you played this game before? What would you do? And you fantasize. And my fantasies have changed a little over the years. I remember being about 10 years old on a Girl Scout trip, and my friend and I were playing this game, and like, I would definitely buy a Chevy Bel Air station wagon. First thing, that is it, right? So most recently we were talking about it, I was like, oh, maybe I'd buy the depot, you know? Fix it up, and it could be a venue for the town, and then maybe someday a bakery, and you know, you just start sort of getting these like houses in the air, little dreams. What would you do if you won the lottery? Did you pay off those student loans? Would you buy that lottery dream house or dream car? It's a fun game to play because I think we all like to fantasize about all the problems we could fix or how much better our lives would be if we just had that one big, crazy windfall. The cash to do it all, and that'd be great. And this hankering, this suspicion that life would be good, or at least better, if we had a little or a lot more, is not new. So today, we're going to look at a parable of Jesus that addresses this very desire and hits it with a reality check. A much-needed wake-up call to the true reality of the kingdom of God. So if you have your Bibles, and I hope you do, open to Luke 12, 13 through 21. Okay. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brothers to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "A man who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop, and he thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself but is not rich towards God. Now, just to set the scene again, if you remember last week, if y'all remember last week, Jesus was talking to people who were following him. He was telling them about the yeast of the Pharisees and the scribes, right? And warning them against it. And that yeast is hypocrisy. Caring a lot more about how you look and how holy you appear than where your actual heart is at with God. And he says, watch out, because this is like yeast, it spreads. Just a little bit of that in a community, and all of a sudden everybody's going to pretend they're better than they are, and nobody's really being where they are with God. And then all of a sudden, this young man speaks out in left field, it seems like. He's like, hey, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me, teacher. And it seems like, what, right? But actually, it's not as random as it seems. This is something you would actually go to a rabbi for in the first century, because rabbis were the ones who interpreted the Mosaic law. And that's what first century Jews followed in these sorts of situations. So if you had a dispute about inheritance, you would often go to a rabbi to ask. And this is probably the younger son. And in the Jewish law tradition, the older son got a double portion of the inheritance, but all the younger sons got a portion too. We divided it depending on how many sons there were. And so this was usually land, and they usually still kept it together. You all know the idea of family land, right? So it's like family land. You would have your portion to work and have, but you'd still want to keep it together to pass on to future generations. So as I'm looking at this and reading about it, some of the commentators were like, well, maybe he was really greedy, right? Maybe he's saying, I want half the land. Like he wants more than his portion. Or maybe he wanted to sell the land and use the money for something else, right? And then that would be kind of frowned upon because you're breaking up the inheritance of land that would be passed on to the next generations. But I don't think there's any reason to think that this guy is asking for something that's wrong, right? I mean, he goes to Jesus, is following Jesus. Maybe he really is getting the raw deal here. Maybe his brother's refusing to let him farm the land or share in its produce. He's not letting him have at his actual inheritance and is keeping it all for himself. And so it makes total sense to come to Jesus. He's a respected rabbi. He should care about justice, right? And maybe my selfish brother will finally listen if Jesus says something, right? And Jesus refuses. And he follows up with another watch out, this time against greed. Now, I'm guessing the man, maybe this is just me, sinful me, what I would have thought. He probably thought, me? Watch out against greed? It's my brother who's the greedy one, right? He's the one who's doing the wrong thing. And this is always a temptation for us, right? Greedy. Yeah, I know somebody who should hear that sermon. They should really hear it. Dave, he is greedy, right? Or my cousin Jake, he is one selfish jerk. He needs to hear this sermon, right? But Jesus holds up a mirror instead and says, no, it's you. You are concerned about money in a way that distracts you from the kingdom, from God. You are the one who desires more and more possessions. You. It's like that old song. I don't know if you guys know it. It's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. You know that song? Not my brother, not my sister, but it's me, O Lord. And as I studied this passage some more, I was like, yeah, it's me, standing in need of this morning. And he goes on to tell the parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, and actually I kind of like the way that some of these translations say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich toward God. Now, we all know at the very beginning, this guy is foolish. How do we know that? Look in your Bible. It says the parable of the rich fool. It's kind of a giveaway, right? You're like, oh, this guy's going to be really foolish. But in the original Greek, it did not say the parable of the rich fool. And actually, when people were hearing it the first time from Jesus, they definitely did not see that little, thing up there. So when they first started describing this guy, he probably doesn't sound all that foolish, right? He's wealthy, he's a good businessman, he's a good farmer, right? And he seems prudent. He gets this big crop, and instead of using more land to build more barns, land he could use to grow more crops, he tears down the ones he has, he builds bigger ones in their place so he has space to store it, so he won't glut the market, and then if there's a rainy day, he has things to lean on, reserves in the back. It's more like, take it back to the lottery analogy. Picture that you have a friend of a friend who won the lottery, and they're telling you, hey, this friend of mine who won the lottery, and he wisely invested the money. Yeah. And so he wouldn't have to worry about the future. He could just relax and enjoy life. He didn't spend it on anything big. He didn't go on a wild spree. You'd probably be like, well, that's a smart guy. Like that's the right thing to do. You'd probably be impressed. And this guy, this farmer, this rich man, actually worked for his money. There's no ill-gotten gains here. It seems like the guy you should admire, you should aspire, you should want to be like. But notice that God doesn't factor into any of his thinking. Now, farming is hard work, and some of you guys know that a lot better than I do. But we all know you can do everything right and still have a poor year, right? You can plant and water, but it's God who makes the plants grow. And in his little monologue, you see this man congratulating himself. It doesn't occur to him to thank God, but everything good comes from God. Life itself is on loan from him. It is all gift. From the ability to work to a good harvest, everything comes from him. And so this is what pride looks like. It says, look at me. Look at this good, successful life I've built for myself. Good job, self. But it denies the reality that everything comes from God. And in the end, everything belongs to him, even our lives. And that very night, this man's life is demanded from him. We need this reality check, because this is definitely not only how we're tempted to live our lives, look at this good life I've built, but it's also how we're told by countless voices in our world is the right way to live our lives. From he who dies with the most toys wins, to carpe diem, just seize the day, you take care of you, right? Or all these success stories that we hear, and you're like, wow, I wish I were like him. I want to be like him. Right? Or her. And this is what a successful life looks like, we're told. It's doing well and then relaxing, enjoying the good life that you have earned and you deserve. Right? But no, this is actually not success. It's shocking, isn't it? But it's not success because it's meaningless. Jesus would have been really very familiar with the Old Testament wisdom writings, including Ecclesiastes. And the writer of Ecclesiastes looks at all these things, the accumulation of wealth, the enjoyment of the good life, and he declares them to be meaningless and fleeting. And indeed they are. We all know people who have all the things, and are not actually happy. If this was what gave meaning to life, it would satisfy the deepest part of our soul, but it doesn't, and it doesn't. Why? Because it doesn't reflect reality. Reality is that we were created by God, for God, and we will never be content until we are joined in relationship with him. Reality is that this life is fleeting and short, and we can't control it with wealth or planning or any other way. The reality is, this life is not all there is. It points us to the deeper reality of God himself, who was before all things and who always will be. He has a plan that goes beyond what we can see, and that plan involves eternity. His kingdom will last forever. And if we're standing here looking at forever, that seems far more worth seizing than this one day. Eternity, forever. It's hard to even comprehend. There was a a missionary who went to Ecuador in I think it was the 50s, from my old alma mater, Wheaton, and so we learned about it when I was there, named Jim Elliott. He actually became a martyr. The people he was trying to reach with the gospel, who had never, this unreached tribe in the jungles of Ecuador, actually ended up killing him and the people he was with. And he has this very famous quote, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." And I've always loved that quote because it's perspective. And that's what Jesus is giving us here, perspective. Worrying about money, spending our time seeking after it, fantasizing about what we would do with it if we got it, and our own pleasure and fulfillment. It's kind of like painting a boat that's going down. You're trying to get the perfect paint job, but the boat has a large hole, right? Or like the typical like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Who will enjoy your things now? That's great. But Jesus returns us to reality, to an eternal perspective on what will actually last. He says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. So what does that mean, to be rich toward God? Well, I was thinking about it, and I was actually reminded of a conversation we had at our prayer meeting on Wednesdays. If you guys have never been, prayer meeting on Wednesdays, awesome. It's actually one of the highlights of my week. I know it doesn't sound like, woohoo, but it's really lovely. And we're there, and somehow, as before we started praying, we're talking, and somebody was like, yeah, I bought a lottery ticket. And it's like, really? Because you're not going to win that, you know? And we start talking about lottery tickets, and we start playing that game, right, that I mentioned at the beginning, like, what would you do if you won the lottery? What would you do with it? And one person says, I'll tell you what, if I won the lottery, there would be a building over there. And I was just humbled and kind of taken aback because my fantasies all focused on stuff I would want. And this person, the first thing they thought of was that social hall we were going to build and wanting to further God's kingdom here in Greenback and how the church can reach out to the community and how people can come to know Him. And that's their passion. And I was just so humbled. And that is the eternal perspective. To store up treasures in heaven by furthering God's kingdom here on earth. Doesn't necessarily mean building a building, but caring for the poor, acts of mercy, furthering the spread of the gospel here and far away. There is so much of this to be done. There's always someone in need of love and the love of God. And that doesn't mean we don't enjoy the gifts God has given us. For heaven's sake, we wake up in one of the most beautiful places on God's green earth, right here. Every morning I feel like I drive, if I do drive, to get out of the house. If I get out of the house, I'm just like blown away by the beauty around us. And it would be straight up silly or just not even ungrateful to not notice it and love it and thank the Lord for all He's given us. But what Jesus is saying in here is watch out. Be on your guard. Because life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. All that will last is the kingdom of God. This is our reality check. This is the eternal perspective. This parable is Jesus' gift to us and warning. And it's for you, and it's for me. And everyone, I'm thankful for it. I need that. So, I'm going to pray, and then I know I'm a little early, sorry guys. I guess I'm the opposite of my husband. So let's pray, and then we'll sing with Him. Lord, I thank you so much for the gift of your word, for the gift of your Son, who came and showed us what it means to be human, and who was an amazing storyteller in a way that could bring us into a place where we can see more clearly the world we live in, and where we stand in it, and who you are. And I praise you that you are the gracious giver of all good gifts, and that this life is not all there is. Pray that as we go forth today, that you would strengthen us in all truth, that we would see the world as it is, and that we would rejoice in you and live generously toward you and how we live towards others. In your name we pray.